we have Jamie waiting for us, calling in from California. Pronouns are they, them. And Jamie, it says here you're looking for some tips on coming out to your family about being non-binary. Welcome to the show.
Hi, guys. Thanks for taking my call. Yeah, basically, I'm non-binary, and most of my family is very Christian, and so they do believe in, like, what you guys were saying about those gender roles, and this is how a woman does, this is how a man does, and stuff like that. I have some uncles who are gay, but they still sort of believe the same things, so it's kind of weird. But yeah, I was talking to them, trying to explain like how I just don't fit into any of that kind of perception of how a human is. And my uncle was like, well, you know, so your gender, like your expression of that is just so you're trying to tell people how you want to be seen or how you want them to view you. But, I mean, you're still female. You're still a woman, even though maybe you like more masculine, traditionally masculine things. Why would you want people to see you as something else? And I didn't know really how to explain, like, I'm not a woman. I'm not woman or man. I just, like, I don't know. I really am having a hard time, like, explaining it to them.
No, I hear you. I mean, explaining is a complicated word, right? Because, you know, to like really dive into gender theory can become a incredibly complex academic pursuit. There's a lot of very fascinating scholarly research on these topics, and there's a lot to be said there. But I don't suspect that misunderstanding is actually the problem here. Like, I don't think it's that the words are too big or the concepts are too complex. I mean, is that fair to say?
Yeah, they're all pretty smart people, so it's just really frustrating that it's almost like they're insistent on not believing me. And, like, my uncles, for one, they'll, like, quotation marks, go along, but it's almost condescending in a way. I'm just like, just, like, I am who I am. Like, just be okay with that. Like, I don't understand why you want me to, like, you can't change, like, you can't just see me as who I say I am. Like, I don't get why that's a problem.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, people. That's part of the reason why gender roles and gender has existed as a construct, right? Because people feel more comfortable putting people into boxes and sorting people out. I mean, that's really what it is. And when you're making an expression and saying, "Hey, I actually don't fit into these boxes, and this is who I am," that can rile people up. And even the most, like, again, liberal, you know, accepting people can have a really hard time with it. Because not everybody's up to date on, like, you know, feminist theory. Like, not everybody's reading fucking Judith Butler while they're, you know, taking a bath or something, right? Like, they still have these ideas that have ingrained in them since birth that people still have to kind of work out. And I'm sorry that you're having to feel like you're explaining yourself to people, because that's never a fun thing to do. You know, I feel weird giving advice in any capacity because I am a cis dude that, like, hasn't had your experience in quite the same way, JB. But I can say, in regards to feeling like you have to explain yourself, never feel like that you can't exist as you are because another person says, "Oh, you have to be this way." You know, you can at least have the baseline of respect of being who you are because you're choosing that for yourself. And at least the people here will respect you for that, and we'll keep fighting to help other people respect you for that, right?
Yeah, well, I appreciate that. It's like with my mom, trying to explain it to her, who is really, like, not fundamentalist, but, like, she's got her foot in the door, of that side of Christianity. And I gave her a hypothetical of, well, what if you saw a guy on the street and he was wearing high heels? She's like, well, obviously he's trying to be a woman. I was like, no, maybe he just likes high heels. That doesn't necessarily mean he's trying to be a woman.
Yeah.
High heels when they were created for men, and women during that time would wear them to feel more masculine. She's like, well, obviously he's just trying to be a man. I was like, you can't even accept a hypothetical person's how they want to be seen. Like, what's wrong with you? Like,
yeah, it's funny too because Jamie, you said that your uncles are like. Yeah, your uncles were like, well, I'm assuming maybe you just like more masculine things. And I'm going to guess here, Jamie, that maybe it's not even that you like them because they're masculine. I think you probably just like those things because you like those things. But even then they have to describe liking certain things on that gender binary, that spectrum, right? Which is interesting. But I want to take it to these guys, give their thoughts.
Yeah, well, and arbitrary and culturally bound. Like you pointed out, Jamie, high heels have changed hands. The pink and the baby blue gender colors have swapped in the lifetime of people still around. So it is very silly that people want to cling to these ideas, but you're seeing that firsthand. Because it's not that it's too complicated. It's not that people, quote, don't understand. It's that they're choosing not to. They're holding on to a belief that helps them to organize their lives, and they are willing to do that oftentimes violently and oftentimes at the cost of a loving familial relationship, which is just gross. And I wish I had more to offer you than, God damn, I'm sorry.
No, it's a tough situation. So I do appreciate you guys hearing me out.
Yeah. Well, Jamie, if I could offer anything, I would say when I was a Christian and when I was bigoted towards queer people, I had this idea that, well, maybe I would like them more if they just weren't so queer all the time. That was really my mindset. It was like, maybe if they didn't have the parades, or if they didn't quote unquote shove it in my face, I'd be more okay with it. But I'm actually glad that people did quote unquote shove it in my face, or quote unquote out, or not. I don't know why I said quote unquote that time. Just mean out. Just are in the public space and are having these conversations, because I needed to have that conversation with myself. I needed to hear the perspectives of queer people in order to understand where they're coming from and realize not only are they not so different from me and that they share the same kinds of human experiences that I do, but also that they are people that deserve to be respected in every way that they come in. They don't have to compromise and come to my view of what I think they should be in society, right? Whether that pertains to your gender or your sexuality or whatever. So I think continuing to be yourself and continuing to respect yourself above all else is one of the best things you can do in terms of changing other people's minds and being an activist,
I also think it's really
I've actually been working on that in therapy. Being more confident in myself and being okay with, just being me. I had some issues with my immediate family where we go to the movies or we see TV or whatever, and there'd be gay representation on there, what have you. Yeah. And there was upset and uproar, and sometimes there were walkouts. And one time I was just like, hey, that's hurtful. Your disgust feels, because I'm part of that community. So your disgust, you're expressing that towards me. And I'm not trying to change you, but I would appreciate if you were more respectful to me and at least, keep it to yourself. And they were a little more receptive to that. They're like, you're right. You don't want to hurt your feelings. We're sorry about that. And I was like, yeah.
Good. It's easy to make fun of a character on TV. It's not as easy to make fun of a family member or a friend, right? So it's good that you had that conversation.
Exactly.
Maybe you were going to say something.
Yeah.
Just in my own personal experience coming out to family, something that helped me was running a sort of cost-benefit analysis of, what is the likelihood that this is going to be a productive conversation? Mm-hmm. Am I mentally healthy enough to have this conversation, right? Like, is this going to hurt me? And I think that's something that you need to or should give yourself permission to decide. Like, is this hurting me to the point? Is this beyond the point of being constructive? And I think something that you said earlier about, keep it to yourself, drawing those boundaries, if it's not going to be a constructive conversation, is totally okay. It's not up to you to be the arbiter of non-binary people the world over, right? Like, you can take a break.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, for sure. Well, that's all I got, really. I really appreciate you guys talking with me. I feel a lot better, actually. I think moving forward,
glad to hear it.
I can be more comfortable in myself. I don't have to always justify who I am to everyone.
No.
I'm gonna just be me. It's cool. If you don't like it, whatever. I'm still gonna
GTFO.
live my life. Yeah. Well, yes, absolutely.
Perfect. All right. Well, Jaime, thank you for sharing that story. That was awesome. And hang in there. I hope things get better for you.
Yeah, for sure.
Good luck. Thank you so much for touching base.
Oh
yeah.
Yeah,
that's tough.
Well, it's conversations like these that reminded me again why I choose to be an ally. You're right, as someone who is not a part of the queer community in really any sense of the word. I am still trying to actively have conversations with people about this when appropriate, right? When I can. I'm a guy that has an earring right now. I've been thinking a lot about painting my nails. I see Christy doing it. I'm like, damn, maybe I want to do that. And it's like, I would love to do that just to see people's reactions, just so I can have that conversation. Think, well, if this bothers you, why? Why does it? Is it because I don't fit into your expectations of what a person can be for my gender, for my expression of self, or is it something else? Where do we get these ideas from? What happens when we talk about this stuff? And that's not a conversation people have every day with themselves.
Yeah, I mean, I'll tell you what, you can tell better than any poll which way a particular county will go in the next election if you spend time there with painted fingernails. You'll just gauging everybody's reactions, you will learn a lot because it goes both directions in a way. Like, there is a aggressive, violent, that's not for men, you shouldn't be doing this, you're just trying to be a woman, all those kinds of ideas. And then you do see, honestly, a good number of, I want to believe, well-meaning people that are willing to fawn over you in a lot of ways. And that can become problematic too. And I think that ties right back to all of these ideas about gender being prescriptive. And then when somebody pushes back against that, that becomes a transgressive act that people then want to rally around. And something like wearing high heels, which really doesn't need to have anything to do with your gender, can become this incredibly fraught issue.
Yep, totally. Or even for me, I put my pronouns in my bio, and I've had arguments with people over this. They're like, one guy on Twitter told me, well, Dan, nobody's questioning what your gender is. And it's like, well, if you're implying that I have a masculine facial structure or presence, then I'll take that because that's what I enjoy having. But it's like, but you don't know what my actual identity is unless you really asked me, or unless I told you. And it's like, I want to break that down even for a guy who looks like me, who has the features that I have and performs the way that I do, because I want to bring it to other people who also look like me, who also talk share those similar characteristics, because that's where that change needs to happen, in my opinion. That's where we need to have greater acceptance for queer communities. So
Something we're going to take another call here real quick, so please be patient, caller. But I wanted to ask you, Dan, as somebody who formerly held bigoted beliefs towards the LGBTQ plus community, how did that deconversion look for you? Did you lose the faith first and the anti-gay thing later? Do you still feel that sometimes? How does that look for you?
I think it was in the process of losing the faith. I remember there's a podcast I'm not sure you guys are familiar with. It's called The Liturgists, and The Liturgist is a podcast. It's very popular amongst progressive Christians because they're not afraid to have conversations about changes that should happen in the church, or where some of these ideas come from and stuff. And I believe it was 2013, 2014, they had an episode about basically gay people in the church, right? And it caused a huge controversy. It's still one of the most listened to episodes because they actually interviewed gay Christians and asked about their experiences, and they interviewed trans Christians and asked about their experiences. And that was, I kid you not, my first time hearing a trans person talk for more than probably 10 minutes, I'd say. I didn't know any trans people grow up. I didn't know. I knew some gay people, but I wasn't really close friends with a lot of them, and I didn't have conversations about their sexuality. So, like, not only hearing them talk about their experiences, but also how they can reconcile that in their faith experiences. I'll be honest with you, I wasn't convinced. I don't think you can really reconcile Christianity with the queer experience in a lot of ways. I know there are people who can, and if they can, I guess you live your life. But I do think it's unfortunately fundamentally harmful for queer people to be in the church. But that's another argument. What I learned from that was, wow, you can be a Christian and you can have these experiences. And I don't know, I came more in touch with a community that I wasn't in touch with at all, basically. And I'd say that was my first exposure to that, and realizing, oh, gay people exist and they're fine. There's nothing to worry about. So it's all good.